Well, Shabbat Shalom, everyone. Good to see you all here on Shabbat. I hope that this day of Shabbat is going to be a break from the rest of the week and some of the challenges that we've had this week. So I encourage you to just take a few moments before we start our prayers to be centered in this place, to breathe peace, to breathe joy, to breathe community into our world of Shabbat. Shabbat is that moment in time when it said Shabbat vayinafash, that we rest and we become, nefesh is the word for soul, we become re-ensouled in a certain respect, to give us a greater sense of connection, whether that's connection with family and friends, connection with community, connection with the divine in the world. But we take a few moments to be in that space now as we begin Shabbat. Let's join together on page 189. Shalom Aleichem, peace be unto you. Shalom, Shalom Aleichem, Shalom, Shalom Aleichem, Shalom, Shalom Aleichem, Shalom Aleichem, Malachei Hashar, Malachei Elyon, Mi-Melech, Malachei Amlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Bochem Shalom, Malachei Hashalom, Malachei Elyon, Mi-Melech, Malachei Amlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Baruch Hu L'Shalom, Malachei Hashalom, Malachei Elyon, Mi-Melech, Malachei Amlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Zeichem L'Shalom, Malachei Hashalom, Malachei Elyon, Mi-Melech, Malachei Amlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Shalom, Shalom Aleichem, Shalom, Shalom Aleichem, Shalom, Shalom Aleichem. As we welcome Shabbat, we bring light into the darkness by kindling the Shabbat candles, and it's my pleasure to call upon Emma Weisenbluth to lead us in one of the meditations on page 20 or 21, and the bracha on page 23.
Please turn into page 20. On this day we will see the world in a new light. On this day we will add new spirit to our lives.
On this day we would taste a new time of peace. We would rest from desire from gain, ambition for things.
We would raise our eyes to look beyond time and space toward eternity. Oh, may we come to see the world in a new light.
As it is written, let a new light shine upon Zion, and may it be our blessing to see its splendor.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher קידשנו במצוותיו וציוונו לכבד את שבת. Alleluia.
Page 25. The last stanza of this beautiful piyut for Shabbat, Yedid Nefesh, Higalena ufros chavivi alai et sukat shlomecha. Cover us with the shelter of your peace, O God. Higale, gale, na, ufros chavivi alai et sukat shlomecha. Igale, gale, na, ufros chavivi alai et sukat Page 27. Abraham Joshua Heschel has written, the meaning of Shabbat is to celebrate time rather than space. 6 days a week we live under the tyranny of things of space, and on Shabbat we try to become attuned to holiness and time. It is a day on which we are called upon to share in what is eternal in time, to turn from the results of creation to the mystery of creation, from the world of creation to the creation of the world. Page 29. Lecha Dodi. Ya la 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 lecha Dodi. Ya la 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 lekrot kala. Ya la 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 b'nei Shabbat. B'nei Shabbat nikabela. Ya la 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 lecha Dodi. Ya la 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 lekrot kala. Ya la 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 b'nei Shabbat. B'nei Shabbat nikabela. Shamor v'tzachor v'diur echad. Ishmianu el hamyuchad. Adonai echad u'shmo echad. L'shem u'tiferet v'lithilah. Ya la la ya la 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 lecha Dodi. Ya la 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 lekrot kala. Ya la 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 b'nei Shabbat. B'nei Shabbat nikabela. Likrat Shabbat lechu v'lecha. Ki mekor habercha. Merosh mikedem lesucha. Sof ma'aseh b'machshava tehillah. Ya la la ya la 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 lecha Dodi. Ya la 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 lekrot kala. Ya la 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 b'nei Shabbat. B'nei Shabbat nikabela. Hitoreri, ki vorech u'mihori. Uri, uri, shir daveri. page 34. Frank, would you lead us on 34 and how can I sing?
How can I sing of day and night when it is God who created formed them?
How can I sing of heaven and earth when it is God who decreed them?
How can I sing of mountains and hills when it is God who planted them?
How can I sing of seas and deserts when it is God who begot them?
And how can I sing of earth and its fullness when it is God who made them be?
I shall sing to God who fashioned all and is beyond all. It is to God I shall sing. As we rise physically or spiritually for the words of Baruch Hu, the call to prayer, we come together as one as a community.
Baruch Hu et Adonai Hamevorach Baruch Adonai Hamevorach Hamevorach Le'olam Va'ed Hamevorach Hamevorach Le'olam Va'ed.
Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, asher bidvaro ma'ariv aravim, b'chokhmah poteach sha'arim, u'v'tvuna mishaneh itim, u'machalif et hazmanim, u'msader et hakochavim, b'mishmerotehem barakia kirtzono, borei yom v'layla, golel or mipnei choshech, v'choshech mipnei or, u'ma'avir yom, u'mevi layla, Umavdil ben yom uvein laila, Adonai tzvaot shemo, El chai v'kayam, Tamid yimloch alenu leolam va'ed, Baruch atah Adonai hama'ariv aravim. Ahavat olam, page 38. With great love you have loved your people Israel, O God.
Ahavat olam le'ed Yisrael, Amcha ahavta, Amcha ahavta, Torah mitzvot, u'kiyum mishpatim, otanu limadta, otanu limadta. Al kain Adonai Eloheinu v'shachbenu, kumeinu nasiach b'chukecha, v'nismach b'divrei Toratecha, u'mitzvotecha le'olam va'ed. Ki em chayenu le'olech yameinu, ubaham negei yomam v'layla, negei yomam v'layla, le'avatcha al tasir, imenu la'olamim, Baruch atah Adonai, Ohev Ammo Yisrael, Ohev Ammo Yisrael.
We rise for the words of Shema and Ve'ahavta, page 40. As we place these words on our heart, we listen, we open our ears, we open our souls.
Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad. 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 Baruch Shem Kevod Malchuto Le'olam Va'ed. Baruch Shem Kevod Malchuto Le'olam Va'ed. Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad. Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad. Ve'ahavta et Adonai Elohecha b'chol levavecha u'b'chol nafshecha u'b'chol me'odecha ve'ayu hadvarim ha'ele asher anochi mitzvacha hayom al levavecha v'shinantam levanecha v'dibarta b'am v'shivtecha b'beitecha u'lechtecha b'derech u'shochtecha u'v'kumecha u'kshartam le'od al yedecha ve'ayu letotafot bein einecha u'chtatam al mezuzot beitecha u'v'yisharecha למען תזכרו ועשיתם את כל מצוותיי והייתם קדושים לאלוהיכם. אני אדוני אלוהיכם אשר הוצאתי אתכם מארץ מצרים להיות לכם לאלוהים. אני אדוני Elohim, Emet.
Emet. Please be seated as we turn to reading Aleph on the top of page 42. Carol, would you lead us there?
All this is going to be true and certain. The children alone is our God. There is none else. And we are Israel, God's people.
Our divine protector delivers us from the hand of human oppressors and saves us from the fist of tyrants.
We perform wonders without number, marvels that surpass our understanding.
You urge us toward life and revive us when we stumble.
You did wonders for us in Egypt, miracles and marvels in the land of Pharaoh.
You led your people Israel out, forever to serve you in freedom.
When your children beheld your power, they praised you and gave you thanks. Truly they accepted your sovereignty, and Moses, Miriam, and all Israel sang to you with great joy.
We sing those same words that Moses and Miriam and Israel sang on page 44, Mi chamocha ba'elim Adonai, who is like you, Adonai.
Come on,
As you redeemed Israel and saved us from arms stronger than our own, so may you redeem all those who are still oppressed and persecuted. We praise you, Eternal One, Redeemer of Israel. Baruch atah Adonai, Ga'al Yisrael.
Amen.
Spread the shelter of your peace over us. Guide us with wisdom, compassion, and trust. Ashkereinu Adonai, Eloheinu l'shalom. Hamideinu shomreinu l'chaim. Save us for the sake of your name. Shield us from hatred, sorrow, and pain. Ashkereinu Adonai, Eloheinu l'shalom. Hamideinu shomreinu
On the top of page 47 with reading Aleph. Lena, would you lead us there?
The strength of the piece of cloth is in those threads of which the whole is woven.
The tapestry of our Jewish heritage has in it threads of many colors, from bright gold to somber black.
With its colors echoing the best of the time, this tapestry was begun many thousands of years ago. Its weaving will continue for many thousands of years to come.
The first
Strand slid through the fingers of Sarah, Rebecca, Leah, and Rachel. Their thread was strong, their colors were brilliant.
The pattern grew, the length increased, and the stories of our heroines and heroes, their deeds, their lives were woven into a soft beauty and lasting strength.
We join together now in Chatzi Kaddish at the top of page 49.
Yitgadol v'yitgadash shmei Rabbah v'yamad yivrach yiratev yamlich malchutei v'chayechanu v'yamecho u'chayei t'chol beit Yisrael b'agalo b'agalo u'vizman karim v'imraruai yesh me'rabah mevarach le'olam alei hamaya yitbarach yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpar v'yitrambam v'yitasei v'yitador v'yitalev v'yitalash v'yikodesh le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata tush bechata v'lechem hata tamiron me'ama v'yimaru amen.
We rise in body or in spirit for the words of the Amidah.
Adonai sifatai tiftach ufi anitilatecha Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu v'Eloheinu v'Imotenu Elohei Avraham Elohei Sarah Elohei Yitzchak Elohei Rivka Elohei Yaakov Elohei Rachel Elohei זוכר חסדי אבות ואמות, ומביא גאולה לבני בניהם, למען שמו יהבה. מלך עוזר ומושיע מגן, ברוך אתה אדוני, מגן אברהם בעזרת שרה. אתה גיבור אלוהים אדוני, מחיי הכל אתה, ומושיע, מכלכל חיים וחסד, מחיי הכל ברחמים רבים, סומך נופלים ורופא חולים, ומציל אסורים, ומקיים רצון לשני עפר, מי כמוך בגבולות, ומי דומך, מלך לביטול חיי, ומצליח ישוע, ונאמנתה לחיות הכל, ברוך אתה אדוני, מחיי הכל. Days pass and the years vanish, and we walk sightless among miracles. God, fill our eyes with seeing and our minds with knowing. Let there be moments when your presence, like the softness of moonlight, illumines the darkness in which we walk.
Help us to see wherever we gaze at the bush of darkness.
And we, clay touched by God, will reach out for holiness and exclaim in wonder, how filled with awe is this place, and we did not know it. Ata Adonai, Ha'el HaKadosh, blessed is the Eternal One, the Holy God. At the top of page 54, we pray responsively with reading Aleph. Bill, would you lead us at the top of 54?
You are one, your name is one, there is none like you, peace over to you. People you become the earth. A garland of glory have you given us, a crown of salvation, day of rest.
Abraham rejoiced in it, Isaac sang, Jacob and his children were refreshed by its rest. In this rest are love and sharing, truth and faithfulness and peace, quiet and safety. It is the perfect rest that you have willed.
May your children come to understand that this Shabbat rest makes them to you, that they may hallow your name.
And words of avodah, words asking God to listen to our prayers on the top of page 59 with reading Bet. Daniel, would you lead us there? 59.
I saw Jerusalem from Mount Scopus, and she was perfect and whole, little yet limitless within her borders, contained and yet uncontainable.
Eastward the hills of Judah, wrapped in white and blue, are ministering priests, and silently they meditate blessing and burn the snail shell incense.
And on the hills and pits, the embers still whispering burn, as if spice were being perfumed there in the twilight, by the roasting of the sun's coals on censers of shadows.
And all Jerusalem was for me like a single coal kept on the altar, that each nation and guardian might come, brighten it with tongs, and take from it an ember. Baruch atah Adonai, hamachazir shechinato l'tzion. We praise you, Eternal One, who brings your Shekhinah to Zion. And on this day of Shabbat, words of Hoda'ah, words of thanks. Modim anachnu lach, she'ata hu Adonai Eloheinu. Modim anachnu lach, she'ata Page 61, the words of Rav Nachman. May it be your will, our God and God of our ancestors, to remove all wars and bloodshed from our world and rather to draw great and wondrous peace into the world. Nation shall not lift up sword against nation, neither shall they learn war anymore. Lo yisa goy el goy cherev, v'lo yilmedu od milchama. Rather, all people will come to know and understand the truth, that we have not come into the world for strife and war, hatred or jealousy, anger or bloodshed. We have come into this world to know you. May you be eternally blessed. Therefore be merciful to us and fulfill for us what is written. I shall bestow peace upon the earth. You shall lie down untroubled by anyone. Let justice well up like water, and righteousness as a mighty stream. The whole earth shall be filled with knowledge of Adonai as the water fills the sea. Shalom Rahab al Yisrael Amcha Tasim Le'olam. Shalom Rahab al Yisrael Amcha Tasim Le'olam. Ki Otohu Melech Adon Lechol HaShalom. Ki Otohu Melech Adon Lechol HaShalom. Shalom Rahab al Yisrael Amcha Tasim Le'olam. Shalom Rahab al Yisrael Amcha Tasim Le'olam. B'tov beinecha levarech et amcha Yisrael b'chol עת ובכל שעה בשלומך. Shalom Rahab al Yisrael Amcha Tasim Le'olam. Shalom Rahab al Yisrael Amcha Tasim Le'olam. Tasim Le'olam. Tasim Le'olam. We take a few moments to pray the words of our own hearts. Page 65. Yihu heratzonim reifim reifim legion libi lefanecha. Yihu heratzonim reifim reifim legion libi lefanecha. Adonai tzuri, Adonai tzuri, Adonai tzuri v'goli. Adonai tzuri, Adonai tzuri, Adonai tzuri v'goli. We have come to a milestone, the end of Bereshit, the end of the book of Genesis this week. Last week's Torah portion ended on kind of a cliffhanger. We had a missing cup found in Benjamin's sack. Joseph demanded that Benjamin remain in Egypt as his slave, and Judah went and begged Joseph to allow him to take Benjamin's place because he was worried that his father Jacob wouldn't survive the loss of his second most beloved son of Rachel. And at this point, Joseph finally goes and reveals himself to his brothers, who are understandably astonished that the young, frightened boy that they left in the pit so many years ago has become a powerful Egyptian official. And meanwhile, Pharaoh learns that Joseph's brothers are in Egypt, and he tells Joseph to invite Jacob and the entire household to come and live in Egypt. So then Jacob and Joseph have a very emotional reunion. This week's parsha is the very end, and Vayechi means he lived. It opens with the death of Jacob. And as the parsha concludes, at the end of the book of Genesis, Joseph, who is surrounded, takes a vow to the future generations in which he says, I am about to die. God will surely take notice of you and bring you up from this land to the land that he promised on oath to Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. And Joseph made the sons of Israel swear to him, saying, when God has taken notice of you, you shall carry up my bones from here. And then Joseph dies at the age of 110, and as was the custom in Egypt, he was embalmed and placed in a coffin in Egypt. So as I was rereading the Parsha this year, I was reminded of a midrashic story. The story is that Joseph's aron, and that word in Hebrew can be translated as an ark or as a coffin. We have an aron HaKodesh, a holy ark. That's where we keep the scrolls of Torah. And according to Mechilta de Rabbi Ishmael, Joseph's aron, his ark, his coffin, was sunk into the middle of the Nile. It's later reported, as we'll come to in just a couple of weeks, in Exodus chapter 14, that Joseph's aron was carried next to the aron of the tabernacle, of the Mishkan. And this raised the question among the rabbis of how Joseph's aron was found. And it's answered in midrashic interpretation. So I want to share with you some of those midrashic interpretations as retold by Howard Schwartz in his book, The Tree of Souls. Before his death, Joseph made the sons of Israel swear that his bones would be carried up. So when the time came to leave Egypt, it said that Moses searched everywhere for Joseph's aron, but no one remembered where Joseph's coffin had been put. And after Moses had tired himself out in the search, he encountered a woman by the name of Serach bat Asher. She was a survivor of the generation of Joseph. And Serach said, Moses, why are you so downcast? And Moses said, well, for 3 days and nights I have been searching and searching for Joseph's aron, and I cannot find it. She said to him, come with me. I'll show you where it is. And Moses said, excuse me, but who are you? And how do you know where Joseph's aron can be found? That was so long ago. And she said, I'm Serach bat Asher. I know because I was present when that lead coffin of Joseph was sunk into the Nile. And she led him to the shore of the Nile at a certain point, and there she said, here, in this place, the Egyptian magicians and the astrologers made a metal coffin, a metal aron for Joseph. They made it heavy so that it would sink into the Nile, so that its waters would be blessed. And then they returned to Pharaoh and they said, if it's your wish that these people should never leave this place, as long as they don't find Joseph's bones, they will be unable to leave. That brings us to the question, who really is Serach bat Asher, and how did she know this? Well, according to the Midrash, she was Serach bat, daughter of Asher. Asher was one of the sons of Jacob. She was among those 69 or some say 70 people who went up with Jacob to Egypt. And she was among those who also crossed the Yam Suf, the Sea of Reeds, and was counted by Moses in that census in the wilderness. Her story begins with a name in the list in the passage describing Jacob's journey to Egypt. It says, Jacob and all of his offspring come to Egypt, and he brought with him to Egypt his sons and his grandsons, his daughters and his granddaughters, and all of his offspring. And all of those who accompanied Jacob into Egypt were, as recounted, Asher's sons, Imnah, Ishvi, and Beriah, and their sister Serach. So there she is. Serach is one of only 2 female descendants of Jacob who are mentioned by name in the list of those who came down to Egypt. Jacob's daughter Dinah is one, and his granddaughter Serach is the other. Now, Serach might have remained merely a name in this list if it weren't for a very curious parallel, because in another list, in Numbers chapter 26, there's a census that's taken by Moses in the wilderness, and that same name, Serach bat Asher, appears again. So what are we to make of the fact that the same name appears in 2 lists that are separated in time for what was probably about 200 years? From our perspective, we might say, well, that's just a coincidence. After all, Asher was a respectable name. It's certainly possible that someone named Asher might also name his daughter Serach. But from the point of view of the ancient rabbis, the fact that these 2 lists have this one name in common, it said, explain it to me. It calls out for a drash, for an interpretation. So they arrived at them for what was for them a logical conclusion. They said, that was the same person. Reading between the lines, the rabbis intuited that Joseph's brothers were filled with guilt and remorse and fear that Jacob might die of shock when he heard the news that Joseph was still alive. So they came up with the idea that they would let his granddaughter, Serach, break the news to him. They ask her, she's apparently a child at the time, to take her harp, she's a musician, and to sing a little song with the words, Joseph Chai, which means Joseph lives. Beginning of our parsha this week, Vayechi, and he lived. And as the story goes, at least the rabbi said, she was happy to sing a song for her grandfather, and when Jacob realized what she was saying, he jumped up and he said, Serach, is that true? And she told him it was true, and the Midrash says he was so excited that he blessed Serach with such a great blessing that she lived as long as she did. And in that way, the rabbis of the Midrash explained why that was the same person 200 years apart, and also he really explained how she lived for so long. Well, Serach was still a child at the time, so maybe 200 years in the time of Torah, the time of Tanakh wasn't so long. There is another version of this account too, in which Jacob was furious that Sarah had mentioned this most painful episode in his life, the loss of his son Joseph, and so Jacob jumps up and pointed to her and he says, you should live so long, and that also explains why she lived so long. But now back to bringing up Joseph's bones from Egypt to be buried with his ancestors in Canaan. So Serach bat Asher tells Moses where to find Joseph's Aron so that his wish can be fulfilled. And some say that Moses then leaned over that spot at the bank of the Nile and called out, Joseph, Joseph, we're leaving Egypt. If you want to come with us, the time has come to be redeemed by God. I call upon you to appear, and we will take your bones up to the land of Canaan if you show yourself. If not, we're free of your oath. And at that moment, supposedly, Joseph's Aron popped up to the surface of the Nile and floated, and Moses was able to take Joseph's bones back to the homeland. Others have said that Moses took a shard of clay and wrote God's name upon it and threw it into the water And in that way, Joseph's Aron floated to the surface. But either way, it was a miracle. Another miracle is that it was made out of metal. And in the Talmud, they address this issue. Don't be astonished that iron should float, following an example from another place in the Bible, in Tanakh, in 2 Kings, in which an axe head was made to float. And in that same passage, they recall a dialogue with someone who sees the Israelites carrying 2 Arons in the desert. They're carrying 2 coffins or 2 containers. One contains Joseph's bones, 1 Aron. The other Aron is carried throughout the wilderness. When the people of Israel travel, they are carrying the tablets that Moses brought down from Mount Sinai, the tablets, the teachings of the law. And this passerby says, why do you have 2 Aronim? Why are you carrying these 2? And they answered, one is the ark of Joseph, who was mortal. The other is the ark of the one who is immortal. And so this person asks, is it proper that God's ark should accompany an ark with a person's bones in it? And they answered to him, this one contains Joseph's bones, who fulfilled all the commandments that God set down that are in the other Aron, in the other ark. So all the years that the Israelites were in the wilderness, according to this legend, there were 2 arks that accompanied the children of Israel in their wanderings. The one that contained the remains of Joseph. As it said, Moses took with him the bones of Joseph following his request to his family and fulfilling that promise. And the other one, the ark of the Mishkan, the ark of the tabernacle that contained the commandments that God set down. And the rabbis say that one represented the past, and the other, the Torah, defined the future. So as we come to this end of Bereshit, this end of Genesis, of beginnings, our rabbinic teachings remind us that we carry, as a people, as a community, both of those Aronim, both of those arcs, because we live the stories of our past, and as we live them, as we learn them, as we interpret them for ourselves, we become the dreams of the future. Shabbat Shalom. I invite you to join me now with the words of Misha Berach, which is on page 133, as we ask God's blessing upon those in need of healing, healing of body and healing of spirit. We are thinking especially on this Shabbat of Shirley Herman, Esther Wuchenmarkt, Rick Valentine, Simon Green, Marlene Friedman, Linda Levenheck, Jack Kudlatz, Francis Van Tyne, Suzanne Shear-Stimson, Bernie McLennan, Harriet Lockman, Ellen Becker, Nicola Proetti, Eliyahu Ben Yitzhak Visara, Rebecca Bodville, Parker Kaiko, Philip Shepard, Carl Katz, Nicole Hansen, Renee Marmorio, Raina Rowan, Yilan Naruzi, Rob Green, Madeline Kitson, Kathy Kitson, Sharon Burr, Jerry Willis, Dee Hickey, James Gaona, Lorraine DaCosta, Dr. Jack Richmond, Nettie Sandelevici, Ada Luzia, Adela Tsur, and Barbara Dean. And if there are others for whom you are praying this Shabbat, I invite you to speak their name aloud or to hold their name in your heart. As together we pray for Refuat HaNefesh, Refuat HaGuf. Page 133. Mi shebeirach avotenu mekor habracha leimotenu. May the source of strength, who bless the ones before us, help us find the courage to make our lives a blessing, and let us say, Amen. Mi shebeirach imotenu mikor habracha lavotenu. Bless those in rise on page 149 for the words of Aleinu.
Aleinu l'shabeach Adon hakol, latet gdolo liotzer breishi, asher som chelkenu yached et shemo, v'gor aleinu le'amrit malchuto, v'anachnu korim, u'mishtachavim u'modim, lifnei melech, malchei hamlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, Shehu notei shamayim v'yosei haaretz, u'mashal yikaro v'shamayim imam, u'shlirotu zo, v'govei meromim, u'Eloheinu Eilon, emet malkeinu Sulato, Kagato, Bitorato, Viadatayum, Veshavota, Elevavecha, Ki Adonai, Hua Elohim, Bashamayim, Nimah, Ve'aretz, Mitachat Ein Od, V'nehemar, Ve'hayav Adonai, Lemelech al kol haaretz, Vayom hahu, Yireh Adonai echad, U'shemo echad.
Page 155. In nature's ebb and flow, God's eternal law abides. God is our support in the struggles of life and our hope in death. In God's care are the souls of all the living and the spirits of all flesh. God gives us strength and comforts us. Life of our life, soul of our soul, cause your light to shine into our hearts. Fill us with trust in you and turn us again to the tasks of life. And may the memory of our own loved ones inspire us to continue their work for the coming of the Messianic age. At this time, our thoughts turn to those who have departed this earth, our own loved ones, those of our friends and neighbors, and all those people whose lives have been a blessing to humanity. As we remember them, we meditate on the meaning of love and loss, of life and death. We are saddened to report the death of two who were taken from our midst during the past week. Vicky Loftus, the mother of Sarah and the mother-in-law of Mike Fick. Please refer to the Benjamin's website for Shiva details. And Philip Berkowitz passed away this morning. Details of arrangements are on Benjamin's website. The funeral will be 2:30 p.m. on Sunday at the Meadowvale Cemetery, followed by Shiva. This time we also recall the following whose yahrzeit, the anniversary of whose death occurs this week. Rita Nair, the mother of Erwin. Rachel Bernstein, the grandmother of Frank Kay. Stephanie Lustig, the aunt of Rita Halpern Grossman. Lillian Freeman, the mother of Michael and the grandmother of Cecile and the late Jacob. Frederick Francie, the grandfather of Rachel Wright. Herschel Burr, the brother and brother-in-law of Robin and Sharon, the father of David and Naomi, and the grandfather of Evan. Moselle Abraham, the aunt of Robin Burr. Maria Grant, the mother of Jeanette Foyer and the grandmother of Daniel, Aaron, and Rachel. David Hernick, the father-in-law of Francis. Morton Levy, the father of Sandra. Samuel Ellie Cohen, the father-in-law of Barry Feynman. Leon Katz, the uncle of Marlene Tash. Helen Goldenberg, the mother of Carol Copeland and the mother-in-law of Jeff Copeland. Morris Siegel, the father of Penny Laskin and the grandfather of Marcy and Jen Wernich, and the great-grandfather of Jeremy and Clara. And Jack Stopper, the grandfather of Ted Greenberg and Bela Greenberg Consett. If you are saying Kaddish for someone whose name I have not read, we invite you to share their name aloud at this time, or to hold their name in your heart. As we ask those who are mourning to please rise first. So that we might say to Min Hamakom Tinachamu, may you find comfort in God's sheltering presence. Now as a community, we all rise to support those who are mourning and to say Kaddish for those who have no one to say it for them as we pray these words together, page 159. Yitgadal v'yikadash shemei Rabbah, ve'alma divrach chirutei v'yamlich malchutei, v'chayechon v'yamechon, v'chayei techol beit Yisrael, ba'agalau v'zman kariv v'imru amen. Yehei shmei Rabbah mevarach le'alam u'lamei almaya, Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh, v'yithadar v'yitaleh v'yitalal shmei d'kudusha b'richu, le'elam in kol birchata v'shirata, tushbechata v'nechemata, da'amiran ve'alma v'imru amen. Yehei shlama Rabbah min shemaya, v'chayim aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael, v'imru amen. Oseh shalom b'mramav, hu ya'aseh shalom, aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael, ve'al kol b'nei Adam, v'imru amen. May the source of peace send peace to all who mourn and comfort to all who are bereaved among us, among all Israel, and among all the nations and families of earth. And we say together, amen. Please be seated. Announcements on behalf of our board and our congregation. First of all, we wish you Shabbat Shalom. Thank you for joining us for Shabbat. We hope you'll join us again tomorrow morning at 10 a.m. for our Shabbat morning service. And next Shabbat, Friday the 24th at 8 p.m. is our Erev Shabbat service, and Saturday the 25th at 10 a.m. is our regular Shabbat morning service. A reminder for all of our Beit Sefer parents, students, and teachers. Classes have ended for December. We're on break. I hope you're all enjoying that. We will be resuming on Sunday, January 9th and Tuesday, January the 11th. This Sunday, December 19th at 4 o'clock, we have a Zoom program with Professor Gil Troy entitled Why I'm a Zionist. Please refer to the flyer and Zoom information in our Shamas or Solel Weekly. Looking ahead, if you want to get some reading done, January 4th, we will begin a 4-part series of conversations with our Israeli friends. It's a cross-congregational reading group with our congregation here at Solel and our sister congregation, Darchei Noam in Ramat HaSharon. The book is called The Wandering Jew, Israel in the Search for Jewish Identity, and we'll be discussing each of the 4 different sections of the book. It's available in both English or Hebrew for most major booksellers. You have your choice of which language you want to read it in. And it should be a really interesting conversation for us to be having. Again, that's a 4-part series. It starts January 4th at noon, and we'll be continuing monthly for the next 4 months. Also, Solel's Book Club. On January 24th, the next book is The Weight of Ink by Rachel Kadish, and that will be Monday the 24th at 7 p.m. And you want to get started on reading that now, too, because that's also a great book. Adult text study and our lunch break will be resuming in January, and we ask you to stay tuned for our January announcements. And finally, we ask you to continue to follow public health guidelines, sign up for your booster as soon as possible. On Monday, boosters open for those 18 plus, if you haven't already gotten yours. And please stay safe, wear your masks, reduce your contacts. We'll get through this together. We conclude our Shabbat service with Kiddush. For Erev Shabbat, it's my pleasure to call upon Jeff Copeland to lead us in Kiddush, page 163.
ויהי ערב ויהי בוקר יום השישי ויחולו השמיים והארץ וכל צבאם ויחל אלוהים ביום השביעי מלאכתו אשר עשה וישבות ביום השביעי מכל מלאכתו אשר עשה ויברך אלוהים את יום השביעי ויקדש אותו כי בו שבת מכל מלאכתו
Asher bara Elohim la'asod. Join me, Baruch
Adonai, Elohim melech haolam, borei peri hagafen. Baruch Adonai, Elohim melech haolam, asher kitzad mitzvotav v'ratzonu, v'shabbat kodsho v'yahava u'ratzon hinkivanu, zikaron v'ma'aseh b'reishit, ki hu yom tehiva l'mikra'e kodesh, zecher tziyat mitzrayim, kivanu b'chata, yotanu pirashta, b'kol olamim, v'shabbat kodsecha, ve'ahava u'ratzon, himchatanu, Baruch atah Adonai, mekadesh ashar.
L'chaim.
L'chaim. Shabbat Shalom, everyone. We wish you joy and peace and rest on this Shabbat. Please join us on your way out for voting to go. Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat shalom.